Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes, Maryland's meeting place for real conversations about issues that affect our communities. On this episode, The Hard Road Home, we talk about addiction, prison, re-entry, and what it really takes to help people rebuild their lives. Joining us are Keith Royce, Executive Director of Gatekeepers, and Maylon Campher, Re-entry Coordinator for the Washington County Sheriff's Detention Center. This is a conversation about pain, accountability, and why helping someone sometimes means tough love. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Keith&Maylon.
And we have two very distinguished guests today. We have Keith Royce, who is the Executive Director of Gatekeepers, a great organization that works out of the Washington County area. And we also have Maylon Campher. He is the Re-entry Coordinator for the Washington County Sheriff's Department. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With Maylon, as you are a volunteer with Gatekeepers as well, and for what their mission is there. Keith, if you could just give us a rundown of what is the mission of Gatekeepers?
Gatekeepers is a nonprofit that's been based here in Washington County for over a dozen years. Our particular lane in the road is helping incarcerated individuals get ready to come home and stay home for good. We will go inside and teach classes to help each person prepare their personal reentry plan. And then once released, we will bring them into the office and start lashing up the resources they need in order to stay home and thrive.
And one of the reasons that you in Gatekeepers have been talked about so much, particularly over the last few years, is the success rate that you have with helping individuals who are coming out of prison incarceration and having them thrive outside and not go back to prison, which is something that traditionally has a very high rate of reoccurrence. Can you go a bit more into kind of what the results are that your program has been stacking up?
Sure. Right now, I'm doing a more positive explanation of all that. I'm calling it success rate instead of recidivism rate. We're running about a 95% success rate in keeping people home for good that embrace our workbook, embrace the principles, and just they're ready.
Mm-hmm. So that is a huge success rate. I mean, most programs we know for a fact have a success rate of less than 10%. Your success rate is over 90%, which is phenomenal. What do you attribute it to, Keith?
I think it's the simplicity of the workbook and the readiness and determination of each specific individual. When you're locked up, depending on why you're there and how long you've been there, there's generally some depression, some darkness, some confusion, and we bring in hope. We bring in a very simple plan. We bring in tools. It's the horse to water. I can give you all these fancy tools that work really great, but it's your motivation and your application of the tools that we provide that'll determine how successful you are. But we have learned over the last several years that the tools that we provide in the workbook are pretty darn easy for folks to understand and to implement. And they're not doing it solo. We partner with them in the creation of the reentry plan, and we partner with them in the lashing up the resources to achieve the goals that they've identified in the reentry plan.
Now, on a previous episode, Maylon, we've actually covered the workbook, and we talked about how valuable it is. You being with the Washington County Sheriff's Department and the Re-entry Coordinator, do you use that workbook, and how successful do you see it being?
I don't use the workbook because Keith comes into the Sheriff's Department and uses if in a broader sense, I would use it in terms of just being able to direct people to their program, but I don't, not formally, because Keith, along with his team, come into the Sheriff's Department once a week and present the program.
Maylon, for you are one of many volunteers at Gatekeepers. You have a very special role. Can you explain what your role is in the Gatekeepers program?
In Gatekeepers, I don't know that I have one particular role. My role is just to support them in their endeavors, just kind of being a positive support, a positive role model.
Maylon, you are in a particularly interesting place because you are looking at incarcerated individuals.
Yes.
Many of them have hit their bottom, literally,
yes.
With drugs and alcohol. To Keith's point earlier about the fact you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have a much thirstier horse when they're incarcerated. Can you
Yes.
talk about that for us?
So most of the people that do come in that are incarcerated, obviously nobody comes to jail and says, hey, I want to stay here. Most of the people that come to jail say, I want to leave. And so then it's kind of up to the team, understanding what some of the issues are and problems are, and then trying to connect them to the various services. What would make it successful, a successful reentry plan would start from the inside and work outside. Because once they leave outside of the jail, then I kind of lose any kind of tentacles that I did have on them. I kind of lose that because they're obviously there in the community. So it's that warm handoff to an agency for gatekeepers is that they come in every week, and so they're able to have a face-to-face kind of sit down with people and kind of get to know what's going on. The jail's a different beast. It's different than the prison. The prison guys are given big, huge, lengthy sentences. When you come into the jail, you have most of the time you could be anywhere from a couple of days to, on average, 18 months. So whether guys hit their rock bottom, it's really hard to tell. Because if a guy comes in and he thinks he's only got a couple of months to do, he may not have hit his rock bottom. But a guy comes in that if he's in prison, obviously, and he's sitting on 10 years, it's a different look. So the jail is a particular beast where rock bottom is, it's hard to determine.
The individual is ready to absorb the lessons, absorb the information, change their life. But as far as when it comes to hitting rock bottom, that is a concept that I think is unique for many individuals who hear that. Could you explain a bit what you mean by that?
I mean, I don't know. I think rock bottom means something different to everyone. Depends on the person, depends on the individual. Like what I consider rock bottom is, for me, may not be for someone else. They just have to get to the point where they're ready to surrender. They've tried everything else, nothing works, and so they're ready to try something else. That is, to me, that would be that rock bottom when nothing else has worked. They tried everything, and it could take, for some people, rock bottom could be one time in jail and could signal like, hey, it's time to get your life together, or it could be 10 times in jail. It just really depends on the individual and where they're at personally in their lives.
How about you, Keith? Do you feel like that's accurate?
To a degree, yeah, I agree with it's individual, but I think the results and the feelings are pretty similar across the board. When you've hit rock bottom. I know for me, when I got locked up, my little selfish house was built on sand and collapsed. Everything that I valued personally was stripped away from me, and I was in a bunk in a dorm with 74 other guys going, what just happened? That forced a really huge self-evaluation of kind of a root cause analysis. What got me here? Where did I fail in my life up to this point? Recognizing I don't want to do this again. I need to make some changes. And what are the changes that I need to make in my life personally and professionally to prevent this from happening again? And so you figure out the root cause was I was making selfish, poor, stupid, dumb decisions. And the corrective action is stop that. Start thinking outside of myself. Start thinking about what God wants me to really do with my life. Start listening more. And stop putting myself in the center of the universe. That was my rock bottom, and that's what worked for me. 25 months in a state prison. It didn't take that long for me to figure that out. That was probably within the first few weeks. It's like, oh, okay. And then it was like, okay, let's start rebuilding.
So, Keith, you referenced your faith, and Maylon, I'm not sure if you agree with this or not, but it does seem that a lot of the recovery programs that are based on faith have a higher success rate. Do you see that in this particular situation?
I think that's the cornerstone to one's recovery. I think that's just the key element to one's success is their faith. I think that's what makes Gatekeepers so successful at it's not a church organization per se. It's faith-based. I mean, that's what gets people through is their faith.
Of the many organizations that are out there, there seems to be just a couple differentiating factors between those that yield results and those that don't. One of those factors actually really is quite consistently seems to be the focus on faith. What is it about the faith that seems to have these outsized results?
Well, I think for me personally, I believing in something greater than yourself. And when you're able to do that, then you can start letting go and let truly, as that cliche is, letting go and letting God, but truly when you can start letting go of self, looking at it from a bigger picture, you can begin healing.
That does seem to fit with what you were saying, Keith, where you mentioned that kind of your realization personally was that you had this small world. As you found faith, it broadened your world to a broader perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, I was baptized in third grade, and I went to church, and I threw a few bucks in the plate, but I never really understood what it meant to have a personal relationship with Jesus, or how even to read the Bible with any meaning and letting it soak in, other than just reading it like a novel. Prison gave me that opportunity to dig deep into all of that, and it just resonated in my heart and in my mind. This is what I've been missing. Is this depth, this security, the peace. I mean, I think I mentioned it last time I was on this. It may sound weird, but sitting out on a bench in the rec yard, I felt such peace like I've never felt in my life. Sitting there with my Bible, reading verses, getting ready to put another sermon together, because I joined the Christian leadership team inside prison and quickly became one of the pastors and was baptizing guys and preaching sermons and teaching Bible studies and loving every minute of it. It does provide a solid foundation. It's the gospel truth that's in the Bible. And if you're a believer, you understand that, and it gives you that solid foundation, the house built on rock rather than sand. It can withstand the traumas of life. Doesn't guarantee you a worry-free life, but it gives you the tools to cope with what comes your way. It's not just you anymore. It's now you and God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and other Christian friends like Maylon and others that understand, commiserate, pray with you, help you, hold you accountable. I think all of that fuses together to a solid foundation then that any individual that's been incarcerated can start rebuilding their lives on. And it's the use of the tools with that solid foundation that you start developing. Now you got a real shot at success, a real shot at a future, a real shot that's not centered solely on you and your selfish stupidity that got you where you were in the first place. Likewise, you can also kind of tell when somebody just isn't ready or isn't willing to listen or doesn't get it. It's in their face or it's in their talk. I got this. I don't need any of this. I'm good. Yeah, I'm going to go. My family's waiting for me. My girlfriend's waiting for me. I got a job waiting for me. It's like, really? And then reality hits in when they come out and like, oh, that isn't there anymore. And that isn't there anymore. And that isn't anymore. Folks that we teach on the inside, if they come to us straight away, we got a really good chance of keeping them home. We have had folks that go try to do it for a few days, a few weeks, a few months on their own. And they come eventually walking in the door, head hanging down, tail between their legs type of thing. It's like, can you still help me? Of course, sit down, let's talk.
It's interesting you talked about reflection because, as you gentlemen know, the word penitentiary comes from penance. I mean, originally prisons were designed to allow people to sit there, study their Bible, and come to a place of repentance, So it's interesting that many of the people you're seeing that want to go into recovery are coming out of prison. That being said, the religious side of faith-based programs, many secular people look down their noses at faith and religion, yet these politicians who do that, some of them, they have to acknowledge the success of your programs. Do you see resistance from people because it's a faith-based program, or do you see like people jump on board?
We have a faith-based component to our reentry plan. When we go in and teach this, we don't necessarily just teach Bible. When I teach it, I tell the folks, okay, when we get to this spirituality quadrant, I'm a Christian, I love God, I love Jesus, read the Bible, go to church, all that good stuff. Whatever your faith group is, great. Is it bringing you, and then list off the fruits of the Spirit? Is it giving you the fellowship? Is it giving you the accountability? If so, embrace it 110% and make it a foundation for you to build your life on. If you're not 100% comfortable with that particular faith group, let us know. We partner with all sorts of different faith groups around town. By and large, Christian faith groups seem to have the best success.
I think the other part for myself is like when I'm speaking with guys on the inside, I can preach without ever quoting the Bible. I'm asking God to speak through me. So regardless of whether I'm actually like quoting scripture or not, I'm still speaking God's ministry. And I think as we try to reflect that I think that's the piece that works, is when people learn by seeing. And oftentimes they learn by seeing. And if I'm reflecting the image of God and they're seeing that, then they're wondering like, hey, there's something different here. And then if they're receptive to what they see and they're open to the idea, then we can start having, then I'll go into specifics, and I won't hesitate to speak about God and what, not only what he's done for me, but what he'll do for you as well. And I'm with Keith. I never go directly and assume that every person believes the way that I do, because it's really not necessary. I don't change people, God changes people. So I present the gap, if you will, for them to fill into. And if they do, great. If they're Muslim, it doesn't matter. If they're whatever they are, it doesn't matter. As long as it's taken them to a positive place, I'll let God do that.
We deal with all the different faith groups. I can think of probably 6 or 7 different that we've encountered this year already. I had a Muslim woman come in today that just got out. We had a great talk. It was just, she needs help. I helped her.
That's right.
Just that simple, that straightforward. We're not discriminatory or biased on any particular group. You just got home, we're going to help you. That's what our job is. But I've also made really good friends with some Muslim folks, and we'll refer them to the different groups around town if they want to pursue that more seriously and lash up with an imam or a rabbi or whoever. Through HARC and just through connections, we know a lot of the folks around town that we can connect those folks to, and we do.
What you guys are describing here is a multi-step process from a place of trouble to a place of healing. We are up to, unfortunately, in America, close to 20% of the population struggling with addiction. So many families are wondering how to deal with these dynamics that you yourself went through and came through and our benefit on the other end. Would you say that it was good or bad, or the process for you hitting your bottom? Were there people that kept you from reaching your bottom faster? Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I was my own worst enemy in my case. I just kept deluding myself with chasing the dollar, getting the next promotion, getting the next title, without recognizing what it was doing to me and doing to my family. Yeah, I've been married twice, divorced twice. It's a matter of priorities. It's a matter of understanding. My foundation at that time really wasn't solid on my faith. It was solid on me. I was doing me, and I was doing pretty darn good until I didn't. And that's when God knew it was time, that I needed a timeout. And the only way for it to really be effective was to strip me of every single thing I value. And that happened pretty darn quick. And it's kind of sobering to find yourself sitting in a big dorm room on a bunk. I had two Muslim bunkmates that took me under their wing and just loved on me. I think that those two guys started helping me heal and started helping me rebuild my foundation, teaching me the rules of the road inside a prison. A fascinating experience, not one I would want to do again, but I'm very glad that I did go through it, because it taught me a whole lot about me and trained me a whole lot about God and Jesus and the Bible and the value of that foundation, the strength of that foundation. I still got some really good friends from inside that we keep in touch. For families that are still in that other side, that haven't hit rock bottom, but you have to reach that point where you're ready to recognize yourself that this is not a healthy direction I'm leading my family in, or I'm taking for myself, and be willing to embrace whatever may come in terms of changes that you've got to make. It's hard to do it on your own. You're going to need somebody that you can trust to help you see, open your eyes, and then find those resources you need to start making those changes that you need to make. So I've had a couple of friends who are addicted to pornography, and they're just tearing them up. So there are tools out there for a variety of addictions, AA and NA, wonderful groups. They've got a lot of good teachings, a lot of good accountabilities. But if you're not serious about it and you're just playing the game, it's going to come out eventually. We've had several guys that come out preaching the workbook. I'm ready. I'm doing great. 6 months later, they're back inside because they had this great front. You can't play in the dark and the light at the same time. You got to be committed.
Well, certainly in recovery, when people have to hit their bottoms, oftentimes people who love them provide artificial bottoms. They rescue them from the consequences of their actions. How do you feel that people in our society today can help and still be compassionate, but allow people to suffer the consequences of their actions?
I come from addiction. I've been in recovery now for 27 years. I know where my rock bottom lies, and I know what worked and what didn't work. I often watch that show, not to criticize and everybody has to, recovery looks a little different for everybody, but They had a show a while back ago. It's called Intervention. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. Bring the person in. They would kind of ambush them, and they would say, if you don't stop using, I'm never going to talk to you, and you can't come to my house no more. And I always thought, as I grew in my recovery, the last thing that would work for me. Because first of all, if you said to me, you're never going to talk to me, that would be great, because I don't want you to talk to me. I just want you to fund me. I don't want you to talk to me necessarily. I just want you to give me your money. So that would be great. Leave me alone. The way that people can look at it first is have an understanding. People around me that love me always will pretend as if they don't know what addiction's like, when most of us know what addiction's like. I don't know too many people. There's a lot of people out there that know what addiction's like. They just don't recognize it. If you've ever been on a diet and you struggle to stay on a diet, well, maybe you know what addiction's like. If you've ever struggled with, you drink 20 Diet Pepsis and you drink them constantly all day, every day, you know what addiction's like. If you're a coffee drinker, you certainly know what addictions are like. Try not having your coffee and see what happens. You know what addiction's like, and you know how hard it can be to stop. It's just that the bottom doesn't quite hit as hard when you're a coffee drinker. You're not standing in Starbucks, holding Starbucks up in the middle of the night. What I would say to most parents is that you just keep loving them, that you keep providing them with hope. Allowing somebody to come in, you keep giving them money, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not the type of love that I'm talking about. The type of love is still praying for them, still hoping for them, still showing that you care for them. That's what brings people home, is hope and caring and wrapping your arms around them. To me, that's what works. That's what works. Is Jesus didn't say to me, son, I'm not going to talk to you no more if you don't stop using. No, Jesus said, I'm going to love you whether you use or whether you don't use, but I'm going to show you the way. I'm going to show you the way. I'm going to show you the way out of it. For any parent that has a kid out there that's struggling with addiction, I know how tough that must have been for my mom to see me struggling. I know what I put her through, but I also know she never stopped praying. I know that my mom was a praying woman. So I prayed in the morning, and I'd be sneaking in the house and she'd be in the room praying, and she would never stop praying. So that's what I would tell parents out there. Keep praying for your kids. Keep holding hope for them. Keep loving them. Keep finding ways to love them, not enabling them, but love them. That's what I would say. That's what brings about a healing is love. Love can cure a multitude of sins. So that's what I would say to any parent that's struggling with a child that's in addiction. I think the worst thing you can do to them is just cut them off. And if I did that in my job, like I wouldn't have a job. Most of the people that I talk to have been incarcerated multiple times, and I'd never once say to them like, well, this is the last time, I'm not talking to you no more. And instead, what I say is, okay, let's try it again. Let's figure this out. No, I'm not giving you money. Like there's certain things we just don't do. But am I going to still give you help? Yes, I am.
You bring up a great point, Maylon, that recovery takes sometimes multiple times. I mean, people will try to quit drugs, alcohol, or addictions multiple times before they finally find the way to the resource. And you also mentioned something about loving them, but not enabling them. Do you see in your clients and the people you're working with, do you see in their lives that people had, in fact, enabled them to get to the point where they were? And if you can you describe that for us?
Yeah, I can try. That is definitely a component to it. I've had people come to jail and they'll be in the phone will ring, and it might be a parent, and the parent might just be really what they consider to be advocating for a person, but they're also forgetting where they're at, and they'll be literally like, fighting for rights that they don't necessarily have to fight for. I think that's what most parents would do, right? When they see their kid hurts, the first thing you want to do is grab them up. The first thing you want to do is wrap them up. And sometimes if they're continuing to do the same thing over and over again, maybe it's time to let them face the consequences of their action.
How about you, Keith? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I hear it in stories from guys and gals. Mom always left her purse out, or it was so easy to take stuff from work and sell it, or whatever it was, they got away with it. And generally somebody else knew about it but wasn't willing to rat them out or arrest them. And whether it was a parent or an employer, I think they were trying to be hopeful, but what they were really doing is enabling, like Maylon said. It's like at some point, the responsible adult has got to make that tough decision in love that I'm not going to actively enable you anymore. I am going to absolutely keep praying for you. I'm going to offer you the resources you need. And then it's individual responsibility on how you handle that. Some will be very receptive to it. They'll recognize, wow, I am way off track. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not going where I want to be. Others, it'll just turn them away. And they're going to say, well, screw you. You ain't going to help me. I'm out of here. And they're going to go on the streets and try to wing it and probably go into a deeper dive and spiral. But they too will at some point reach bottom, like the prodigal son story. Give me my money. I'm going to go. What happens after all the money's gone? It's like, I need to call
He comes
back
crawling back.
and beg for forgiveness, and
But he had a moment of clarity when he was eating the pea pods with the pigs. And that moment of
Absolutely.
clarity has to come.
Newsflash. It's like, wow, I was stupid. I had it really good back there at home. I had a great family.
Right. And Keith, the consequences we're talking about, and also what from a society standpoint, I mean, we're making laws that make it easier for people to find drug paraphernalia, less intrusive as far as penalties go for drug use and other things. Do you think that we are enabling people through the judicial system and through the societal systems that are set up right now, especially the leniency in our law enforcement program?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I can see some of the logic behind some of these harm reduction efforts. Hey, come in and get clean needles. We'll swap you. Here's a wound kit. But they try to do that with a message of hope at the same time. The combination, I think, is good because the alternative is that person's going to either reuse dirty needles or going to go steal something and do it again. If he knows that there's a safe, non-judgmental place where he can start going on the regular and trade in his used needles and spoons and get his wounds treated. I know several harm reduction centers and folks that do this kind of work, and they say it's painful, but they keep offering hope. They keep planting those seeds of hope. And every once in a while, they get to watch a germination, and somebody wakes up and turns themselves around and says, hey, I need more than this. I need some serious help. So however you reach these people that are struggling, it would be nice to just walk up to somebody and tap them on the shoulder and say, come with me, we're going to heal you. Different people react in different ways to the traumas that they're working with, and that's just assuming somebody's like mentally sane. Somebody that has some mental disabilities or other challenges, it's even harder to reach those folks. But we can't give up hope, and we don't. Maylon and I don't. We keep planting seeds all the time. We keep offering that hope and keep offering that encouragement. Even if you're just going to point blank tell me in the face, well, I'm just going to take this and go. Okay, see you next time.
Haven't really accepted that drug use should be criminalized. I don't really know if that's the answer. I think it's a choice. It's a personal choice. I think the crime should be criminalized, but if you choose to use drugs, that's a choice. It's a poor choice, but it's nonetheless a choice. I think we enable in ways that we don't even realize that we enable. When I'm sitting and I'm talking to a young man who can barely read, I think the system enabled him. I think the system allowed him to pass through. How can you say, did you graduate high school? Yes, I graduated high school. Well, how did you graduate high school and you can't read? Well, then that means some teacher somewhere along the line, that the system itself enabled this young man to get to where he is. By denying our neighborhoods of basic resources, I think we are setting them up ultimately for the failure that's to come. Is that a form of enabling? I think it kind of is, because in a lot of ways we'd rather not deal with them. We'd rather not deal with people because we might look at it and say, well, this certain group or that group has a particular behavior that we don't really care for, so we don't really have to provide the resource to help them the way that we would help somebody else. Do people need to go to jail because they're using drugs? I mean, at the expense of the taxpayers, as much money as we spend to incarcerate, I'm not really sure that's the solution. I think it starts at a much re-entry is really a tough sell when it gets down to it. It's like I believe like you got to hit them before they come to jail, because once they come to jail, now you got a real job cut out for you.
Having to essentially create an environment that allows for consequences. And so when you talk about the paraphernalia programs, the ones that Keith was talking about,
harm reduction,
If you look at it in one aspect, is that it very well does keep a person from dying immediately, but they are still dying slowly. The process of physically dying is still occurring, even if it's more slowly. All those programs, it seems to also be associated with a greater increase in drug use. Are these programs possibly creating a greater loss of life?
I don't know if that's the case, if it's actually growing numbers. Because I think if a person's going to use, they're going to use. I don't know whether because somebody's giving them needles or not. I don't know. Again, I mean, that's a very controversial program. I don't think, like, if you're just they're the whole object is to kind of keep people safe. I think the bigger question is to ask why in America do we have such an appetite for addiction to start with. I think those are the big questions that we just don't want to ask. And why is it like we're always talking about this whole like war on drugs? Well, why do we need a war on drugs in America? What is it about our culture that has forced so many people to depend on substance abuse? How did that happen? And then who do we look at? Like now we're just talking about the end user. But a few years ago when the pill mills was fully operational, where's the doctors at? We don't have them. They're not in jail with me. They're not coming to reentry. They're not going to Gatekeepers. Where are they at when they were making piles of money off of people when they were prescribing? You know how many people I talked to have said, well, you know how I started using drugs? Well, I had a truck driver came in and said he fell out of his truck and he broke his ankle, and they put him on opiates, and they let him on opiates for a year. And then after that year, they said the insurance company is no longer paying for it, and they left him there. Nobody takes any accountability for that. They just say, well, that's okay. That's his fault. He's got poor choices. Well, you know what? There's a lot of us out here that make poor choices. So I guess there's a bigger question to me is, why do we have so many people in America? Why has America have such gluttons for drugs? And I think there's a lot of answers. We could probably do, you could talk about it all day and still not nail all of it down. But that to me would be the first thing that you got to think about. Jail, and I would also go along to tell you that I don't know that jail works. We spend billions on jail or jail and prisons, and I don't know that it's gotten any better. The Washington County Detention Center is not going to close anytime soon.
You're right. We could talk about that particular subject for another 3 hours. Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time for this episode. And I just want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. I think it starts a conversation. And Maylon, I think, like you said, we have to decide where America got this appetite for addiction. But we appreciate you, gentlemen, being on. We thank you very much for being on Mid-Maryland Votes. Hopefully you guys can come back sometime. We can talk further about this very important topic that's affecting the Washington County area specifically, but all of Maryland in general.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Mark. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This has been Mid-Maryland Votes. I'm your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my co-host,
Keith&Maylon.
And on behalf of our distinguished guest, we thank you for joining Mid-Maryland Votes. As always, if you enjoyed what you heard tonight, go ahead and share it with a friend. If you didn't like it, then share it with an enemy. We're equal opportunity entertainment. Thank you, and have a great night from Mid-Maryland Votes.
That's it for this episode of Mid-Maryland Votes, The Hard Road Home. Addiction, incarceration, and reentry affect families and communities in ways most people never see. The road back is long, uneven, and rarely simple, but honest conversations about accountability, structure, and support matter. Like, follow, and share for more content like this, and find us on Facebook and YouTube. And thank you for joining us once again on Mid-Maryland Votes.